Good evening again. For those of you who might not know me, my name's Ross. I'm doing the second year of my Foundation Science in Golf Performance at Myerscough College. The first few slides of this are just going to be sort of a recap of what I went through in the first presentation. I'm obviously doing a study based around putting, and these are some of the things that we already sort of know about it. In 2005 it was determined that putting was the most important factor for determining earnings on the PGA Tour. And amongst elite players it was found that 43% of shots in the completion of a round were putts. A 4-foot putt has to have a face angle of less than 2.02 degrees. An 8-foot putt has to be less than 1.1, and a 12-foot putt has to be less than 0.69 of a degree for it to actually go in the hole, based on a straight putt. So, for a solidly struck putt, it's determined that face angle is 83% responsible and path is 17% responsible for the actual starting line of where you hit a putt. So quite important really to actually make sure that we get those right. Again, we're looking at the thickness of the grips. People are going for all these super stroke and things of other natures, different methods of holding the putter, and again, does any grip sort of produce a more favourable result in what we're looking at. So, loads of previous research into all sorts of different areas of putting and how things can actually be affected by it all. But one of the things that I haven't covered on there at all is psychology, because there's so many different sports and there'd just be too much information to start even looking at it. So, what I want to do is look at the effects of different putting grips methods and how they actually impact face rotation. So, there we go. There are 4 different grips: conventional, reverse interlock, claw and baseball. Now I'm going to give sort of a couple of demonstrations as to what these are, just sort of pictures. Players currently using it. Again, a lot of you have probably seen these from last time. So Jordan Spieth, US Masters, a couple of weeks ago. One of the things that was picked up from him was he also used a psychology method of attentional focus. On his shorter putts of about 6 foot in, it was noticed that he actually looked at the target of the hole rather than looked at the ball when he made his putting stroke, which is something that a lot of people are now starting to understand. Well, when you throw a dart, are you looking at the dart that you're throwing, or are you looking at the dartboard and the target that you want to aim it at? Things like that. So it's something that area of psychology that a lot of people are looking at for golf in general. Again, we then looked at the claw. Sergio Garcia, number 2 in the world at one point, and Phil Mickelson, again, highest rank of number 2. And then the baseball grip, which we looked at and we said, well, this is what we all learn as a beginner, so why aren't we sticking with this method? So, technology was the Sandput Lab. It was a triplet which attached to the putter shaft rather than the putter face, which was sort of a limitation as to how can you actually say, well, what's the putter face doing when something isn't actually attached to that? So, a bit tricky to sort of get the hands on, but there are technologies that will do that. This is just an example of the report. So we looked at aim, at address, direction from the putter path, face direction at impact. We looked at path and spots, so the actual path of the putter, as well as the impact spots on the putter face. The loft and rise, so how people are actually coming up into the back of the ball, and launch angles were actually predicted through these. We then looked at face rotation and movement dynamics, so how much the face was moving, but also the tempo of the putting stroke from backstroke to follow through to impact. So obviously, as we know, my area of study, I was looking at how much the face actually rotated, but using these different methods. So what did I find? The important bit: face direction at impact. So category 1, the conventional grip and the reverse grip actually produce the same result as a mean value of 0.07 degrees to the right of the target. However, the conventional grip also produced the lowest standard deviation, so the lowest between the furthest left and the furthest right of target, 0.70. Now, what we also notice is the reverse grip for the category 1 players produced the highest standard deviation, so there's the highest difference between those. Category 3, however, reverse was minus 0.79 as a mean for all the participants, with a standard deviation of 1.76. Now, the one that produced the lowest deviation was the baseball, where it was 1.32. Again, you can see claw didn't perform very well when we're actually looking at impact. So we then took it a bit further and said, well, 10 centimetres before impact, what's happening? So we've now got reverse and conventional that's good for category 1 that scored the highest, the best, are actually now the worst. And the claw, from a category 1 point of view, produces the best results overall. Category 3, starting to see some similarities in the fact that, once again, 10 centimetres before impact, reverse has produced the least amount of rotation. But we then look and we say, well, the claw has actually produced the lowest standard deviation, so the lowest difference in the results. But then we say, well, 0.69 for the claw compared to 1.00, it's not a massive amount, and we're looking at 0.31 of a degree. But when you look at that, even from 12 foot, you can be double that and still go in. So then looked at what was happening after impact. So again, reverse, worse for category 1. However, baseball actually came out as on top. But for the category 3, it was the claw that came out the best with the lowest mean and standard deviation for that one. Whereas the baseball came out worse, which we've just seen from 10 centimetres before impact. That again, baseball came out worst. So then looked at the total rotation. And said, well, category 1, again, reverse has come out worst, but for category 3, it's come out best. So 3 out of 4 variables for category 3, the reverse grips come out as with the best results. Now, from my own opinion, I would say that 10 centimetres after impact is a variable that probably doesn't need to be considered, because once the ball has left the putter face, the ball is in contact with the putter face for 0.000125 of a second. So once that's gone, what can you actually do to influence it? Yeah, we all stand there clicking your fingers, shouting at the ball, trying to get it to slow down. None of it's going to help, is it? So we say, well, that to me is sort of a null and void variable, because you can't change anything. But what we did notice was that 3 out of 4 variables for category 3 players actually came out of reverse as the highest. Again, category 1, it was a very mixed bag of results all the way through. So what were the possible reasons for this? Well, conventional grip method, it's the most comfortable. That's why people use it. It's traditional. Again, you see it with your main clubs. You would invariably have your lead hand at the bottom of the club, at the top of the club, sorry. It's widely accepted that that's what you would do. It provides sort of a level of touch and feel on breaking putts that you wouldn't necessarily have. And certainly when you're looking at chipping and using clubs off the green, you have the same hand position on the club as you would do using your putter. So it's sort of an intertransferable skill when you're looking at that as well. Reverse grip. So what you're effectively doing is actually minimising the breakdown in the left wrist. So because that's now at the bottom of the putter, you've got more extension through the muscles and the tendons in the wrist. So you've less chance of actually that breaking. You're reducing your forearm rotation. If you can reduce that movement, you're going to reduce the putter face rotation through the ball. It also encourages a square shoulder plane at address. So if you imagine when you've got your left hand at the top of the putter, your left shoulder is very much higher, and you're also hitting the ball quite a way on the up. As soon as you do that, swap your hands over, you actually level these off and put them to a more horizontal line to the ground. And as I say, because we're reducing forearm rotation and we're reducing a squarish we're promoting a squarer shoulder plane, we then promote a squarer face through impact. So the claw method takes the hands almost out of the equation. The left hand stays in contact, and obviously the right hand, but it's a push with the right hand rather than anything else. It basically makes the right hand almost passive in the way of actually getting any wrist movement through the ball. It also provides sort of a new look and a new attitude for players to say, well, this is something new, I'm going to try it because it's something so extraordinary that it might just work. So, why do people change? We've seen somebody else do it. We've seen it done. Jordan Spieth just won the Masters. How many people are now going out and trying the reverse grip method? Because they've seen him do that. They want to promote a level of confidence in their own abilities. They want to know that when they stand up on a putting green, or on the green on the last hole, they want to know that what they're going to do is actually going to get that ball in the hole. And by having that element of confidence in your actual own abilities to be able to do so, will sort of give you a better stead for what you're trying to achieve. So, any questions?
How did I do?
Reverse on most three out of
wasn't it?
yeah.
I'm quite surprised.
Got the results with me actually.
So from all the
Maybe
stats
you
you've given
should.
us, are you saying that your category 1 players should carry on with their normal grip, but your category 3 players should go to a claw or a reverse grip?
From the results that we've got there, category 3 would be recommended to sort of change to a reverse grip.
Right.
Category 1 is still going to be further testing to sort of determine, well, what is actually, are there any trends beginning to show? Because we've only used a very small sample of 3 participants for each category. If we were to use 6, you might find that some of the correlations start to come into place a bit more, and then you'll get those differences. So again, this is only based on means and standard deviations, and there's no statistical testing that's gone into this yet, which is where you would create sort of a probability value that would say this is 95% of the time this grip method is going to work. So, but due to restrictions on time and things, I haven't had the opportunity to do that.
So do you think then that category 1 players are more comfortable and confident with what they're actually doing, so it doesn't have a massive impact, whereas category 3, because of the level of their handicap and nature of their handicap, is that why possibly they need a more standard method of putting?
Potentially, it could also be down to sort of experience of playing on different putting surfaces. Obviously, when you're looking at very quick greens, you're looking for touch, you're looking for feel. But when you're playing on slower greens, you want something that you're actually going to be able to hit the ball a bit harder, which you might, some grip methods. I know from my own personal experience, I use the conventional method for longer putts, but inside probably 6 or 8 foot, I will use the reverse method, because that's the way I feel actually works for me personally.
I mean, a lot of the pros do that, don't they? I mean, you see the pros now, but a lot of them, for anything more than 12 feet, will do conventional,
Yeah.
and then they'll do the reverse from 6 feet, and then, you know, it's your sample's based on 12 feet, is it?
It's based on an 8 foot putt.
8 foot.
That was
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean,
completely
I think the
straight.
putts that probably a lot of people feel most concerned about are the 4-footers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a level expectancy.
I can get them 12
8 footers.
They're easy.
Well, you're just trying to get in the hole, aren't you?
Yeah.
Whereas 8 footers, you're trying to hold them. And that's where again, the psychology comes in.
But what was interesting was when we took sort of some baseline data of the participants with their own grip, and Pauline will be able to back me up on this. Not one individual said that the putt was straight. But yeah, what we then looked at was we looked at the path and the impact factors that were taken into consideration. So what the direction of the putter face was at impact and what the path was, and we were finding that if they had a closed face with an in-to-out path, it was actually putting draw spin on, and they were seeing the putt was right to left. But other people were coming in with an open face and an out to in path, and they were seeing it as left to right, but actually
It's straight.
it was completely straight. So that was sort of one of the things that we had to ensure that it was a straight putt, but it was just interesting to get people's opinions on how they thought the putt broke when I knew personally it was straight, and obviously when we went through the stuff afterwards we saw that it was straight.
How did you ensure that it was straight? Right.
It was done on artificial putting surfaces in an indoor environment.
What's the difference between conventional and baseball?
The fact that the hands are actually locked together, that we used an interlock conventional grip. So rather than the hands being down as two separate units attached to the putter,
Yeah.
we ensured that they were locked together within the fingers, just to try and get what people would do and replicate when they were out on the
I
course.
take it conventional and is locked.
Yes.
Overlapping
Yeah.
interlocking.
Yeah. Baseball's not.
You know, you talk about this rotation and all that.
Yeah.
When you watch Phil Mickelson, he pushes hands forward at the last moment.
Yeah.
Is that to stop that sort of thing, or?
Some people do it as a trigger,
Yeah.
just to sort of say, right, I'm going to push my hands forward and take the putter back. It's almost a trigger to start the movement. One thing that you sometimes notice, it's quite difficult to pick up on, but if you push your hands forward, you sometimes push the putter face out to the right of your target. So you have to be very careful. When
Yeah, I just wondered why he did it, whether it was to...
Yeah, so I would imagine it's just a trigger to start his movement.
So did you use a person's own putter, or did you have a standard putter?
No, the person was required to use their own putter because it was something that we felt comfortable with.
Right.
However, I provided the golf ball so that there was no sort of variable that could be changed with the golf balls.
Right, what I'm thinking is that on different putters they have different faces.
Yeah.
So what would that do to your actual study?
There's an argument and there's research going on that looks at different putters, whether it's heel balanced, face balanced or toe balanced putters, for different swing paths. So if you have an out to in, if you have an in to square to in path, so you go in from,
Yeah.
then you should have a toe balanced putter because that will swing the toe round quicker. If you have a completely square path, you should have a face balanced putter, and if you have a path that comes out to square to out, you should have a heel balanced putter. So
As if you're in or out. That's a bit of a problem.
You know how to
See you write your name in the backswing.
that's where,
The autograph.
on that one, this person would need a toe balanced
Toe
putter
balanced,
because
yeah.
they're coming out to in.
Yeah.
Into square to in, sorry. But it's one of those things, you spend £300, £400 on a driver, but you're reluctant to spend £130, £140
That's
on a
true,
putter.
so-
And I don't and there's very few people who have putters fitted in the way of lie, loft and length, which
So what are those ones you've got? The
That's
putter you've got?
Yes, putter.
See,
groove.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
why have those grooves on the actual putter face?
the idea was to try and get the ball rolling quicker by hitting up on the ball, and with the grooves it would then sort of promote momentum
Right.
into the ball.
point
However,
contact.
when you look at the fact of how little time it's in contact with the ball for, how much influence is that actually having?
So your pound might be right then, Jules. Never mind this 130 quid.
So, obviously, you probably haven't done this, but nowadays there's more and more people with a bigger grip. So, how does that impact, or
I was
as an opinion?
I was fortunate with my sample that everybody had what I would deem as a standardised size grip, so the
Right.
normal grip that you would get when you purchase a
We
putter.
used to have a double grip we could get 2 thumbs on at one stage. Now they seem to be going back to a baseball grip size because of the grip on your putter's like a baseball.
Yeah. How that influences this, I wouldn't be able to even begin to say because it's not something I've looked at.
Do you have plans to do, I mean, I'd go back to what I was saying before about 4 foot and 20 footers.
Yeah.
Do you have plans to do some analysis on that basis? Because I just think the 8 footer is one which you might get. You know, you're expecting maybe 20% of the time you'd worry the whole.
Yeah.
Four footers you'd want to get 90%,
Yeah.
and it's a sort of there's something about an analysis of those distances, 20 foot and 4 foot.
As it stands, the next sort of area for progression is to get a larger sample size for category 1. Look to see if there's any sort of correlation between category 1 and professionals, and also look at category 2 and see if we can then link and say, well, this is what we now find. It might have just been that the 3 category 1 players were very different with their own putting techniques. They were, I think one lad was off 1 was off 2 and 1 was off 3. The one that was off 3 had previously been a scratch golfer, but then didn't play for 2 years, just gave it up, put the clubs in the garage. In fact, I think he said he sold them, and just gave it up for a couple of years, and now he's kind of taking it back up again. So
Gone up to 3 nowadays.
some of it might be down to period of time playing as well. So,
Did you say that you didn't think, because the ball is in contact with the club for such a short period of time,
yeah,
didn't have a great deal of influence on the amount of spin that it would?
yeah. So
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Say the same about the driver or even the snooker cue.
yeah,
The actual period at which the two are in contact with one another
Yeah.
is very momentary.
certainly from a driver point of view, what you've got is you've got gear effect though. So you've got the ball will always try and reach the centre of the mass of the item in which you try and hit it with. So in the case of a driver, the more you hit the ball out the toe of the club, the more it's going to spin put draw spin on it to try and come back to the middle. So that's where gear effect starts to take place. So again, conversely to that, if you hit it out the heel of the club, it will try and go back to the middle, so that you'll then put fade spin on. That's where you tend to see your shots moving from right to left if you hit it out the toe, and left to right if you hit it out the heel.
But in each case, whether it's a putter or a driver or a snooker cue,
There will be
the
some.
period at which they're in touch with one another
Yeah.
is instantaneous.
It is, yeah. The ball is actually in contact with the driver face for longer because of the compression that it's under at that time.
So if it's only that minute part of a second, how does it send it off on angles like that past the hole?
Face
You'll
direction.
have a private
I know.
session with your lady.
But is it, I mean, you go a 4 footer, the number of times we all miss them, and if you're saying it's only that very minute, how could it send it off track that quick?
If you've got your path
Yeah.
and your face angle pointing out to the right of your target,
You know what, I just think it's just
So why is it
What might
that
be
some days I can go out and miss
Yeah.
nothing,
Yeah.
and other days I go
Yeah.
out and think I'm doing exactly the same thing
Yeah.
and miss them all?
Actually not.
psychology, do you have a forward hand press that you're aware of?
No, I definitely don't have
Right.
a forward hand press, and
You're
I
no
know why, because
psychologist.
I'm aware of it.
Well, the amateur one, which she's married to.
But
I need
it's
one.
any number of variables. It can be down to pace of greens, when they were last cut. Are the greens always exactly the same pace?
Oh,
Probably
can't
not.
be.
So sometimes you just have those days where they go in, and sometimes you don't.
We have more of the wrong days, don't we?
Yeah. Wrong sort of grass.
Do you know if anybody else is doing similar analysis? And if so, are you in touch and trying to compare your data?
I've been in contact with, obviously, Mike Kansky, who's here, who's working with Phil Kenyon. I've also been in contact with a guy called Paul Hurrian, who does high-speed video cameras, works with a lot of European tour players. He's actually based in Birmingham. A company he owns is Quintic. I contacted them at the start of this to see if they were aware of any research or literature regarding it. They knew of nothing at all. To the best of my knowledge, there's still nothing actually on this particular aspect.
Yeah. I mean, if it's the business, I can imagine them being a little bit careful about
Yeah.
their own intellectual property. I was just thinking about other research at maybe other colleges or whatever at the moment?
Nothing that we're aware of. There's a lead researcher at the college that I'm trying to speak to at the minute about the potential of getting this published and saying, well,
Yeah.
this is what I found.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more work to go into it. Yeah, that's probably next year's challenge. Once I've got all the stats and things like that.
How easy would it be? I mean, on the basis the numbers you did it with are very, very small. Therefore,
Yeah,
you know, when you take means and medians and things, it's really quite limited to
yeah.
divide by 3. Say to take the people at the college with you, the good golfers, etc., and just put them all through it just to see whether a bigger spread actually, because realistically, with a mean of 3,
Yeah,
you're not actually giving
Small sample.
such a small sample, or you know, have a day where you could just drag everybody in and before they go out to capture information, so you could actually spread it and then see whether it makes such a bigger difference, shall we say.
one of the things we're going to look at is next year I'll be taking the baseball grip out of it completely because it's too similar to the conventional grip. As elite players and sort of the amateur level where you've been playing a while, nobody uses a baseball grip for actually holding that. One of the biggest limitations was time. Each testing session.
It's not a criticism, it's just saying that
Yeah.
because it's such a small sample, maybe you don't see as wide a
Yeah.
variety as you would do.
Did you predict your results at all? Have you done any research into predicting what those results will actually be?
Because there was no literature on it,
Right.
there was no way of sort of producing
Right.
either a hypothesis or a null hypothesis. It was just a case of how do, or even do, different putting grip methods affect face rotation. There's a guy done a piece of research recently which looked at how different putting grip methods affected head and eye movement. Which you just think, where have you come up with that idea?
Yeah.
But somewhere they've found that with a different method of holding the putter, your eyes are actually watching something else, and your head, there must be some form of head movement.
And yet Speed's looking at the whole.
But yeah, Speed's looking at the whole because it was found that in elite players, an external focus of attention that was distal to the performer produced better results, whereas a proximal external will be something that you're actually in contact with. So whether you watch the putter face going back, no, sorry, it's not. That's whether you would watch the ball. Whereas you've got external distal, which is watching the hole. And then you've got internal, so actually the movement of the putter, the movement of your shoulders, however you want it. It's what people sort of focus on when they're actually producing the putt in motion.
Do you not think most amateurs' problem is that they set up and they hit and then they're looking at the hole, they're looking for the ball to go in too quick.
Yeah. As
Doing that,
soon as you lift your head up, your shoulders
Yeah.
come round and everything
yeah.
goes left.
Do you not think that's one of the main problems?
Potentially.
But that
But
happens
then-
even if you're driving. Any
Yeah, I know. I just,
bring your
you
head up.
can feel yourself thinking, you
Yeah.
can say to yourself, I've looked up too quick.
Yeah,
Because you don't know, I know Faldo said, listen for the ball to go in the hole.
yeah.
It's hard to do that.
Ian Poulter, I think it is, from I think about 10 foot,
Yeah.
watches the ball from on the floor and stays looking at that target on the floor,
Yeah.
not actually watching what the ball's doing. I think that's from about 8 to 10 foot, but yeah, you've got Jordan Spieth who doesn't look at the ball at all and looks at where he wants the ball to go. Which you look at it from another sport, you look at it from football. Do you watch the ball when you kick it, or do you know where the ball is and you're watching where you're trying to kick the ball? Basketball,
Right, yeah.
you're shooting for the ring, are you watching the ball or are you watching where the
But
ring
you're
is and
using
where
a piece
the
of equipment in
positions?
golf, aren't you? You know, there's a
You are, yeah.
Say throwing the dart,
Yeah.
well, you're actually, you know, you're not putting your hand
Not
against
putting
something
the
to throw the
dart
dart.
from-
Yeah.
It's in your hand already, so
Got
it's an
it.
extension of you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But presumably, even with football, with rugby, if the ball is stationary, surely
Yeah.
it's the ball itself you're looking at.
Yeah, you
It's
think
a
so.
specific spot.
But you then look at tennis. Tennis is a moving sport. You watch elite level tennis players, where are they looking when they're actually hitting the ball? They're looking at where they want the ball to go invariably, rather than actually what they're hitting.
Then they're hitting stage
They're not-
before,
as I say, it's
apart
not
Not
safe.
that-
apart from on the serve.
Yeah.
When the serve, I guess if they are actually looking at the
Well, it's
ball,
still,
aren't they?
Still moving, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're throwing it up, trying to
Yeah.
come down to whack it.
No, the point when they are hitting the serve, it's stationary.
Yeah, because you're hitting it at the top of its
We
flight in
can't-
theory.
So why don't you use category
That
2,
many shots, that's it.
which is the,
He
probably
knows what
more
that
people in
is.
category 2, are there?
There's a lot more people in category 2, but when you look at, I looked on the Master Scoreboard website, which gave the average club handicap, which actually fell in the category 3 boundary. So,
It's amazing, isn't it? What is it for ladies and for men nowadays? Can you remember?
when I did it, it was 18.4, but I don't know whether that
For
was.
men? What for
I think
that?
that was. I think it was 16.4 for the men, and I think it was 18.4 overall. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, but that's because there's not that many women. Because
No.
women's average handicap must be in the 20s.
And the
Club
ladies'
isn't it?
handicap system actually obviously goes up higher as well.
Yeah.
With it going up to 36,
yeah.
whereas the gents only goes up to
yeah,
28.
Yeah.
So
At least it's not 45 anyway.
When does it change Jordan speed? Is it just a particular?
it's the shorter puts. I think it's from about 8 foot in,
Yeah.
8 to 10 foot in. It's
I
whenever
have to watch it.
he sort of feels
Yeah.
right. This is one that matters. This is one that's got to goes in.
Yeah.
I think that's when it's a whole, or if it's even maybe in his peripheral vision.
Yeah.
So
So we've got to go to conventional grip for distance, and
Well, that's what you have tried, didn't you?
I haven't tried, it does work, but it just
So you
doesn't
stopped
feel
doing
right.
it?
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel right, you don't feel
His handicap was
comfortable.
coming
it
down.
does feel very uncomfortable to do, but it's something that, like saying with anything, if you work at it, it will
Yeah,
just
the
feel
more you
more
do
and
it,
more
the more
comfortable
it
all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
More important.
and I go out and practice, but then when you get your medal round,
Yeah.
oh no, no, I'm going to go back to me.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, isn't it, I suppose? Unless you do it every day like
It's doing it all
professionals.
the time.
Yeah.
Spend a day
Whether you're on the
out
putting
there.
green, whether you're out playing on a Tuesday night, or whether you're out in the common on a Saturday, you just do it all the time. It'll soon become sort of natural,
Yeah.
and that's what you'll do.
Tearing the new grip,
You
John.
know, you're not, it'd be like one thing if
It's all
you
back on the
do
psyche.
the thing the whole time, but what you're saying is you do the reverse grip on a shorter cut, and then longer ones you're going back to the other one.
Yeah.
So it's more like chicken motion. Yeah, so you're not, you sort of, it would be more difficult to get the, what do you call it, muscle memory,
Yeah.
isn't it? You know, yeah. I actually have 3 attempts.
You've forgotten it.
Pre-putting
My
Scott.
muscle memory's pretty good, I'm having that many clubs.
I'll have a claw.
Golf.
I'll have a
Yeah, golf.
conventional. I'll have a bit of baseball.
Any others?
What the team is?
No, well done.
Thank you very much for that.
Basically-
Thanks, Scott.
Basically.
Ross.
Thanks, Ross. Thank you very much.